before we go to the session, a couple of disclaimers. This session best suits to people who are new to GraphQL and Node.js and want to dive deep into building REST APIs. And it has been raining cats and dogs here in India, so I've been facing a couple of power cut issues. So if I go offline, just bear with the platform. I'll be back from the mobile data, if that's okay. Okay. I'm Abhay. I'm basically from India. I work as a JS lead for Qt42 for around 5 years. I've been working with Qt42 for around 5 years now. How did we get here, as in how did we come to GraphQL? Before everything, when the web development started, all we had was a single platform where we used to host our servers and front end and everything as a single unit, mostly as static. Then came an era where we wanted to indulge with more people and we wanted more collaborations in all platforms. Then we started making APIs. Eventually, when we came to smartphones, we wanted, and the requirements for the smart devices grew. We wanted the APIs to be more scalable and more fast and more strong and to be digested by all the platforms available. Then came the time where we moved. That was the time basically when we were using SOAP for making APIs, and JavaScript was mostly used as a tool for DOM manipulation and to beautify the UI like a slider or something. Then came REST. Node.js is one of the best options that you want to go with if you want to build a REST APIs. Node.js, when Node.js came into the picture, the entire scene of JavaScript developers changed. That is, JavaScript was now running into backends, that is from Node, into database, that is MongoDB, and also as a complete front-end library and modules, like starting from Polymer, Angular, now React, Vue, and whatnot. So what Node.js provides? Node.js provides the capability for the people who know JavaScript to be full stack. That is, they can themselves code for backend and frontend as well. It provides immense capability of scaling. The community is great. Node.js is best known for its high performance. It wouldn't matter if you have 1 million documents or thousands of documents, the time taken to query those documents would be same. It's, as said, it's a single programming language that one can leverage for both backend and front end. Node.js can handle requests simultaneously very easily. And we can go on with the benefits of Node.js, but we also have few issues that the Node.js is not able to address it properly. One of them is routing. For example, if you are working on a product and the product scales with new features and millions of users and other use cases, a backend developer would end up making tons of routes, which is again difficult to manage. Then there's issue for overfetching. Overfetching can easily be understood by saying a gorilla and a banana problem, where you ask for a banana and you get a gorilla with a banana. That is, you want a little data, but you'll get the entire data, and you have to, in the front end, you have to ignore all the unwanted data and deal with the only data that you want. This might not look like a big problem, but when you have concurrent users, and that would make a big impact, and why would you want to send data that the front end isn't using? So overfetching is one of them. Underfetching is when you have to do multiple calls to get a set of data. For example, if I have authors and I have books and I have release dates and genres. So if I want to fetch the information for all the authors, written all the books for all the genres, a very bad use case and a very bad architecture would be if I had to do multiple API calls for the same. I don't know how to explain it into a Drupal way. Maybe all of them can be a taxonomy, and if the taxonomy is not populated well. I'm not good with Drupal. I work for JavaScript, but yeah, that might be a thing. Underfetching is when you have to do multiple calls for fetching a certain set of data. This is where GraphQL comes into the picture. GraphQL is well known for this data fetching. It's a query language where you ask for what you want. You don't get anything extra. You get everything, but you have to ask for what you want. It is schema. It has a schema and type system, which makes it stable, scalable, structured. And most importantly, the iterations on the front end is seamless. So for example, you're working on a product, and for example, the product has restaurants, and the restaurants has items, food items. And today you want the information about 5 information for the items. But going forward, if you want other informations, then the backend guy would have to expose those informations. And that is again an iteration, both in the front end and the back end as well. But with GraphQL, you have all the data set in one go, and you have to just ask for it. And most importantly, GraphQL is not the answer to everything, especially in the JS community, as at an average of every fortnight or a month, we have a new library, a new platform, a new module that does the old work in a better way, or maybe in the same way, in a different way. We tend to stick to everything that's trending, but does it really solve the problem? All the weapons cannot be used in all the wars. Every weapon cannot be used in all the wars. So you have to choose wisely before dedicating a project to a framework. You have to evaluate if that is the best fit for the solution. So yeah, GraphQL is not the answer. Anyways, anything is not the answer to everything. What we are going to see for the next few minutes in the slides and also in the demo is we are going to integrate Node.js with GraphQL written into TypeScript, which makes it more structured. A bit of basics for people who are new to Node.js. Just a couple of 2-3 slides of Node.js. Node.js is a thing called routes. Routes are nothing but your URL or endpoint which you call to fetch data or to delete data, do manipulations on data. Models are basically structures of a database. The data in the Mongo or any database via Node and Express is saved in the structure as mentioned. So for example, I was going through yesterday's presentations and people were having issues while viewing the sites. I hope it is not the case now. Are you guys able to see the code properly? Okay, thanks. So that's why instead of going through a live walkthrough, I've tried to put the code over here with the line numbers. So in the line number 16 to 18, you can see we have declared a schema which has title, which is required, which is of type string. This is a very small use case, and this is how the data will be stored in MongoDB. Controllers are the thing which basically communicate from database and responds with the data to the client. We'll get into deeps of everything in the couple of slides. GraphQL basics. So there's a lot of more to talk about Node.js and how things work, but these are the more critical points of a Node.js application: routes, models, and controllers. Coming to GraphQL basics, we have schemas. Schemas is nothing but you can assume them as models, as we have models for Node.js, a structure of how the data will be saved and tackled. Then we have mutation. Mutation is nothing but interacting with data minus the read. That is, with mutation, you can create data, you can update data, you can delete data, And for reading, we have query. Query sounds like a simple thing, but with query, you can have filters, which we'll be seeing in the presentation very soon. We'll be having filters and other things. So to better understand, let's go through a use case where we have these blocks. So the box on the red box stands for a student. The student can have name, class, section, subject, and subject is another entity, class is another entity, section is another entity. If you guys from Drupal, can you, just to make it more interactive, can you quickly put in chat how would you architecture this thing for an API? Let's say by Drupal, any keyword would work. Should I repeat myself, or should I show the slide more? We have an entity for student, we have an entity for subject, we have an entity for class, we have an entity for section. Every class will have a subject and every class will have a section. So for example, I'm Abhay Kumar, I am in standard 12B and I am learning physics, and I have scored 99 in physics and 18 maths. If I want to build this relationship, let's say in Drupal, how would I do that? Content type relationships. Actually, I'm not sure how to do that, but I was just asking how to do that in Drupal. Yeah. Okay. So I'm just revising the use case. There's a student. Student studies in a class. Every class has a couple of subjects. Every class has sections, and the student has to score in all the subjects. Now we will try to deal with this use case with Node.js and GraphQL. So this is a starter kit which I have developed, and I mostly refer to this to quickly spin up a Node Express TypeScript application where things are where, for example, cron jobs are already done, controllers are already put into place, models are, a demi model is there, and I have to just clone it and jump into business logic. So I've started by cloning this repository, and this is the folder structure of the repository. Everything in the folder structure is for Node.js, apart from the thing that's pointing, that the pink box is pointing, GraphQL schema. GraphQL schema is something that while making the demo, I've made it. Everything else, for example, is for Node.js. In the builds goes the build for the Node application. In configurations, we have configurations for middlewares and whatnot, S3 buckets and everything. Controls have controllers. Environment has environment configurations. For example, name of database for environment production, and database name for on configurations for development and staging. Models have models, routers have routes. Just to separate the business logic from the controller, I mostly follow the service pattern where I create service and all the business logic goes into the service, and controller is eventually responsible only for fetching data from the database and returning back to the client. And of course, there is index and servers and whatnot. We'll get into deep of everything as soon as possible. This is a class model. This is the model for a class. So the earlier use case just had, for a class, had one key, let's say 11, 12, 10. We just have title for the class, schema. Similarly, we have just one input, one key for section. That is, again, just to keep it simple, I keep it title of everything, every model. Similarly, we have for subjects, and student is a bit not that complex, but a bit different. In Node.js, in Node.js, all of these boxes are collections. Collections are nothing but tables in SQL. In JS, we say collection. Every row is called a document. Where was I? So, student, yeah. I was a student. So we already have a class collection where the class is added. We have a section collection and we have a subject collection. So every time I add a student, I would want to have the class entity referring to the actually class collection. That is why in the class object, we have reference to class model. Similarly, for section, we have reference to section model, and to subject, we have reference to the subject model. Coming to the routes for all the collections are pretty much same. So I've just added one slide. From line number 19 to line number 22, you can see the types of routes for class, to get a class, to get single class, to update a class, and to create a class. So all these files for all the collections are basically the routes for all the collections are written in a different file, and all of them are included as one entity in an index file for routes. And the beauty of JavaScript frameworks is you can structure your project as you want. So this is what I follow. This is the index for routes. And by the way, we are still going through Node.js. So what we are going to do is we are addressing that use case for students and classes and sections and subject. We are building a project for Node, and then we will see how we gradually integrate it with GraphQL and how GraphQL works with that. So this is index for route, where all the classes for the routes are initiated. So when I do domain/class, the class router will be initiated. When I do domain/section, the section route will be initiated. And you can also see in the previous section, for example, line number 19, when I do this.router.get/, this interacts with a controller, which is class controller.getClass. So this is how a route is linked with the controller, and the controller again returns back the data to the client. So actually the route will be domain/class/ so on and so forth. Now to integrate GraphQL, we have included a couple of libraries for GraphQL Express and GraphQL and Express Playground. And we have modified the router index file. We want to have a playground at /API, and we do not want the /class/student and so on and so forth to be working anymore. So we have modified the router index file. And what we have done is in the line number 2, you can see we have GraphQL index. That is a different thing which I would like to have emphasis on in later slides. In line number 25, what I have done is I have initiated a route /API, which should redirect me to Express Playgrounds. Express Playground is nothing but a different and a beautiful way of showing the GraphQL Playground. Just to keep things simple and modular, I have, instead of writing everything into one schema, I have tried to add things into different classes and keeping modular, and all the schemas are basically in different files, and these files eventually bind up to be one later. This is a class schema that we would write. You can see the correlation between the Mongoose model and the schema that we declared for GraphQL over here. We are declaring types for class. In line number 6, you can see ID colon capital ID exclamation. Exclamation starts for it's required. And we are basically creating our own types for class and a different type for as input class. And later in line number 15, we are assigning a class to be a type of class. And from line number 24 to line number 26, we are actually binding these routes to a controller. So the router is actually excluded from the node application now, and the GraphQL comes into the picture. This is a schema for section, which is pretty much simple. For getting sections, a section would have an ID and a title. An ID, as I mentioned, ID is automatically created by Mongo. And for input type, we have just title of type string. We also have to declare our queries and our mutations beforehand. That is how these are binded to the controllers. As you can see, line number 14, we have declared our queries, and in line number 19, we have declared our mutations. And from line number 23 to 27, we have actually bind them to the controllers. Subject is similar to the rest of them. This is a bit different, the student schema. Everything is same apart from we want our class to actually point to a reference of the class collection. So this class is not declared anywhere in this file. This class is actually pulled from this class. So type of this class, and it's a different file, is used as a type in the student file, which is a different file, and all of them are clubbed into one file. That's why it's working. Similarly, section, where the green box is pointing to, the class and section. Section is also predefined in a different file. Subject, we wanted subject to be an array of subject. So subject has to be, we cannot nestedly define things in GraphQL. So subject data had to be a different type altogether and to be declared as an array. And similarly, in the box in the middle, you can see we have declared different input types, which would take input from the client. This is where we club everything into one. This is where we club all the schemas for all the respective things into one. Initially, we have from line number 1 to 5, we have just a minute. Are you guys able to listen, or is the rain disturbing? Okay. Where was I? Yeah. So initially, what we are doing is from line number 1 to 5, we are importing from line number 2 to 5. We are importing all the schemas declared in all the different files, and then we are declaring types, queries, mutation, and routes, and then looping over everything and creating that array for types, queries, and so on and so forth. And the photo image on the right is a continuation of that picture. It was a long file. There we are building schemas and joining queries and declaring things. Due to this file, we do not have a very big file. We have written everything into a modular file, and this definition of this class and section can be used from other files. Setting up Node.js with GraphQL. Now that we have ditched the routes from the application, this is how we create mutations, and this is how we create data from GraphQL to Mongo. So so we write mutation and then we write a function like create subject. This create subject is declared schema. Yeah, this create subject is declared in line number 26. Similarly, all the queries that we do and the mutations that we do, the title of that queries will be the root objects. That is search subject by ID or subject or create subject. I'm just going back to the slides to explain it more better. So this create subject came from there. And in line number 2, we have input colon an object. This object is nothing but the input object that we see everywhere. For example, subject. We have an input object at line number 10. That input object is used to input as an input at GraphQL Playground. This is the view of the GraphQL. This is not the default GraphQL Playground. This GraphQL Playground we have switched in the very beginning in the route section. Yeah, in the line number 25, we have ditched the default GraphQL and came to this Express Playground and GraphQL basically. And for example, since we know how to create subjects, similarly we'll be able to create classes and sections. The critical part is creating a student with all those information, because student is linked with relation to other collections. For example, if I am creating a student with title, look at the value for the key class, subject and section. These alphanumeric value is the ID for Mongo. And in the controller, what we have done is we have in the model actually we have pointed it towards the respective collection. So Node.js does it automatically, and it automatically binds that collection as a reference to the other collection if required. Also look at line number 14, line number 15. Once we have created anything, or we have to declare, this is the beauty of GraphQL, that you have to ask for anything and everything whenever you want. So I want that whenever I've created the student, I want the title of the student as well. So on the right side image, you can see the title as Raj. That is the response that comes up from the servers for a successful creation. This is what a query looks like. The query has the name of the function as class, and what we're looking for is title. So on the right side, we get all this query class actually calls the controller get all classes, which returns all the class that we have with the title. And just because we just have the title for class, we are just returning title. And if you want all the information from students, or any information from the student, the query from student would be, you would call student and you'd ask for title. And since class has its own title, class is a nested entity. So you would ask in the line number 4 and 5, you can see we have asked for class, and in the nested way, we have asked for its title. Similarly, section and its title, subjects and its title and score as well. For example, consider a use case where I do not want to show the score. I just want to show the rest of the information. In any other solution, I would still get score. But in Graph, that's the thing with GraphQL. This is another important thing that GraphQL provides. You can actually call multiple APIs. If you are thinking into React terms, you can call multiple APIs at once. For example, if in a single API request you would want information from 2 different collections or 2 different type of data, you would have to call 2 different APIs. or maybe create one API which does that thing, which again increases the count for the number of APIs. But with GraphQL, you can leverage everything from, in this demo with GraphQL, you can leverage everything that Node.js provides minus its drawbacks. So you can call multiple APIs at the same time as we are doing it here. Imagine the scale of this feature that should actually reduce the network load on the product. This is how we would call a filter from APIs. For example, I have students. I have students with, there are two students with the name Ajay, and so there are basically a couple of ways of using a filter. You can actually put filters in a query variable as shown over here and use it as a variable in the query string defined with $filter, and you have to declare its type as JSON. Or you can directly put the query into you can directly put the title, the filter in the query and get the same result. Or if you want to find if you want to find everything whose title stands with AB in this example, you can also write regex. You can also write regex just in the front end and get data from the back end. Instead of, earlier there used to be two ways. Either the front end used to do filter for you, either the back end used to do filter for you, which would require multiple requests, or you take the entire dump of the data and filter things on the front end. So yeah, this is the best practice in the last slide. We will go through the depths of everything to understand things better. Do we have any questions so far now? Don't forget somebody. Okay. So yeah, this is the repo that I've cloned. People who are interested in Node.js, building APIs in Node.js or with GraphQL, can actually go to the GitHub link and install it. All you have to do is git clone and you have all these functions with you, and you can quickly jump to the business logic of the project. So I'll quickly go to the folder structure. Config has connection strings, a dummy cron job, a JWT configuration with an obvious key, middleware settings. Controllers have, so the controllers are divided into, each controller is dedicated to each collection. So for class, we have a controller dedicated completely to class. Similarly for others, for environment, we have configurations for default environment, production, and development as well. This is how a model looks like in a complete view. So this is the model for class model, where we define title, and we have already gone through this. And similarly, this was the old route for the Node application, which I have modified as index.js, and this is how all the things are working. This is an interesting part where all the schemas for different files, I'm just revising what I've said. All the schemas for the different files are declared into different files, and this file, GraphQL index.ts, builds everything into one. And services is empty. We have a dummy service for JWT token, but that's okay. That comes with the repository. And yeah, let us see if the server is working. As I mentioned before, moving to GraphQL, I have actually developed this project as a Node project, and then this is how I was entering data. as a Node API would do. And I have done the respective changes as mentioned. The changes are very little. And then I moved to Playground. And this is how the things work. So let's say if I want to do mutation, I have written, just to also save the time, I have written the commands over here. For example, I want to create a subject with name Sanskrit. Okay. Now I have a subject for name Sanskrit. Actually, I've clicked multiple times, so I would be having more subjects for name Sanskrit. So yeah. Coming to best practices, there can be multiple ways to do a thing in a different ways, and even to be optimized. But what I believe is any path can take you to a solution. But what important is you start thinking in what path you have chosen and why. So, for example, if you have chosen GraphQL for project, you must evaluate it beforehand before diving deep into it, and start thinking into graphs rather than thinking in it as a solution for REST APIs or how would you develop REST applications. Thinking graph means, for example, this diagram, I have just thinking graph means I need not care what is linked to what. I just do the linking and I expose the endpoint, and not actually thinking about how I would do it in a REST API. Yeah, that's it from my side.